All right, then. Let's do some tier lists. Expansion has dropped. Relics are here. Runes have been reduced. It's time for the tier list once again. We got some PvE tier lists. Group play tier lists. What is broken? What is not broken? I think some things have changed, but the thing is that things have changed all in the same direction. In general, the power level is a little bit higher overall, for every single build, more or less. We've been crept upwards. So even though there are definitely a couple of outliers where they are absolutely disgusting, in general, everything has just gone up. We're going to do the same thing. We will break it down into defensive supports, offensive supports, then full damage classes as well. And honestly, the full damage one, that's going to get crazy. No idea how we're going to do that one. But we will do the defensive supports first. So let's do it. Defensive support builds. And we'll do the, we'll do the top one first. Unsurprisingly, actually, I don't think this has changed that much. I think Druid is still the king of supports, of healers in this game. It is absolutely insane. The uptime is crazy. There's even a couple of videos where people are using it to give alacrity to 10 people at the same time by dividing into different subgroups and splitting out. Crazy build. Definitely had a lot of usability improvements. Has all the boons access. Has all the healing. This is insane. Still pretty much, when played effectively, the strongest build. And actually, I'm going to put Scourge in S tier as well. I actually think I slightly underrated Scourge in my last tiers. And I will say, this is with a little bit of an asterisk. I would say that Scourge is S tier, Heal Scourge, specifically in the universe where you have something that applies other boons. If there's like a very selfish offensive support, then Scourge becomes a lot weaker. However, if you're playing this with something like a Herald, it is unbelievably broken. What kind of brought me to this realization, I did an Unka challenge mode with double Herald, double Heal Scourge, and I actually think even on the challenge mode, even when we did the 6-stack achievement, so like where you take way more damage and get way less healing, the amount of barrier this build puts out is so strong that I don't think we even lost barrier for the entire phase. This build is broken. You can actually solo heal very well as well. Again, it does kind of need a bit of setup. You need to have a comp that makes sense. It's much more composition sensitive than Druid. That's why I guess we'll say it's a little bit worse overall. But yeah, this build is actually ridiculous. And it actually, most support builds, there's actually deep power creep on healers because Monk runes got nerfed. You don't get 10% healing from Monk Relic, you get 10%, whereas previously you had 10% base on the rune and then 10% from the extra bonus at the 6 bonus. So healing builds got nerfed, and actually barrier builds got buffed because there's more healing power on the Monk rune instead of the healing modifier, which is really, really good for Scourge because it doesn't care about healing, it only cares about barrier. Well, it cares about healing a little bit, but mostly about barrier. And this does mean that you can actually take Mercy Relic basically for free on this build, which is actually very, very high value. If you could take Monk as well, obviously, but you don't really care about healing modifiers nearly as much as other healers. You mostly care about like value and utility. And that is something to watch out for in future updates as well, actually. Relic choice will be very free on Scourge. You'll be able to very easily take a utility relic on your healer, and with much less of a trade-off compared to other healers because of the barrier-oriented nature of Heal Scourge. So yeah, that was, you get the idea, right? It's going in S tier. It's insanely good. Heal Mech, yep, it's here in A tier, in my opinion. It's still very, very good. It's right up there. It performs extremely well. It's Old Faithful, pretty much. There's not much to say about it. Nothing really changed with the expansion. It's still good. It still functions exactly as it was. Did get buffed last patch, of course, with the increase to your active barrier, and you really can actually shield. If you use your barrier signet and barrier burst well, you actually can deflect a huge amount of damage, especially when you combine it with Mace 2 as well. So, yep, very good build. It's still there. Herald as well. I'd actually say it's on par, if not slightly better than Heal Mechanist, actually. I'm a big fan of this build, actually. This one's really fun to play. And the boon radius, 25 might, 600 radius on every boon, on your protection, your fury, your swiftness, your regen. Very, very strong sustained healing. Tablet, I feel like, is still a little bit too small in terms of the radius, but it is really nice. You can be tanking and heal someone who's far away. You can be away from the group and healing the group at the same time. And because you have such a massive boon radius, you have a lot of freedom of movement with this build as well. Very, very strong build, actually. Very, very strong build for a Heal Herald. in my opinion. Embrace the heal, Herald, or don't. It really is entirely up to you. Heal Firebrand, also in the mix here, in A tier. I want to say it is... I kind of want to... We're going to split some hairs here. Is it better than those two, or is it worse? I think it's actually a bit situational. I think these are actually quite situational here. There are some times where I think Heal Firebrand is amazing. I think there are some times where Heal Herald is actually amazing. And there are some times where Mech does extremely well, depending on the encounter. It's very encounter-sensitive in A tier, in my opinion. Somewhat true for S tier as well. There are definitely some situations where Firebrand can even outshine something like Scourge, potentially, right? Just because of the Aegis application, the stability application that these builds have. As well, but yeah, Heal Firebrand, very, very good. The rework, incredibly favorable, of course. Now you can be very flexible with your tome usage, with your page usage, and they actually buffed this again like a while back, right? Now you get an extra page whenever you expend your mantra. You get 2 pages instead of just 1 when you fully get rid of a mantra, which is just very, very good. Very solid healing output, great boon access, and because might isn't an issue anymore, you don't even have... That's a slight weakness of the build. Its might output isn't amazing, but you don't even care about that anymore because so many builds just spew might these days. So Firebrand, A tier. And then, I think just as before, pretty much, we're actually going to have all of the usual stuff in A tier. And actually, it feels a bit wrong to call this B tier, actually. I'm going to go ahead and say this is S+, that's like that, actually. Because it does, in my opinion, the connotation, there's like a connotation of B tier, right? I actually don't think that makes sense to describe any of these builds whatsoever. People go B tier. That's not very good, is it? No. Tempest, very solidly in A tier, in my opinion. Hasn't really changed, to be honest. Like, nothing has really been switched up just as of yet. You know, you have a relic now. Of course, there were a few changes before the expansion with the alacrity, radius, and duration. Still, perfectly good build. Pretty good, pretty good, pretty good. Very, very nice. In that regard. Oh, let's see. Where are we going to put Scrapper? This build. This build got a lot better with Mace. This is one of the things that did change. This did change, which is rather exciting if you ask me. So, you now use Mace Shield on Heal Scrapper, and that made it a lot better. You have barrier access, you have very good combo finisher access with the leap to generate quickness. Really nice, but boon access is incredibly mediocre. Unbelievably mediocre on this build, to be frank. Does have some stability, can revive pretty okay. Utility skills are really tricky to fit in. Actually, they're quite competitive, and you just don't have the boon access. So, B tier. Not good. Yeah, needs more prot, needs more might, needs more everything, to be honest. Doesn't really compete with any of this stuff, to be honest. I think Heal Specter in a somewhat similar situation. These two builds, they're kind of unfinished. They're like, they're one patch away from being really good. You know what I mean? That's what this tier is. The B tier is one patch away from being really, really good. It's getting there, too. These are both getting there. Some very good improvements, in my opinion, to Heal Specter before the expansion. Hopefully we see some of those in the next patch. But again, just a little bit lacking overall in the boon access and boon application department. The healing is actually very solid. This build actually heals a lot with the healing well, the teleporting backwards and forwards. You have barrier application when you use your heal skill as well. It does technically have stability in there as well, but it's a bit awkward with the wells. There's definitely some usability and playability issues. But with the change now that your tether affects all targets in your subgroup, basically, massive playability improvement and just makes the build a whole lot stronger, but still somewhat incomplete, in my opinion. Somewhat incomplete. Okay, Heal Catalyst. I think I have to be mean to this build. I do not think this build is good at all, by the way. This build is not good. I am sorry. Some people like this one. And you know what? Maybe I like this build. This build it's a cool idea. You know, I'm a Catalyst fan. Wait, no, I'm not. That's a lie. Yeah, I like the idea of it on paper, but it doesn't really work out. It's imagine if Heal Tempest sucked. Then you'd have Heal Catalyst. Oh, yeah. Just doesn't really have good utility skills. Tempest has like the shouts, it has rebound, right? You have wash the pain away. You have good healing outside of water all the time. Catalyst, you don't have that. It's not good. Difficult to make it good as well. There's kind of like some design elements of Catalyst, particularly with how the utility skills are, that make it very hard for it to actually be good, in my opinion. Right, next. Ooh, Heal Untamed. Heal Untamed is a brand new, oh yeah, brand new build. Let's go. Actually, this is when the Weaponmaster got added to Ranger, and now your staff is an AoE heal protection thingy on Untamed. And of course, you still have Spirit, so you have access to a variety of boons, stuff like Aegis and so on. You can do Might no problem on this build. And you know what? It's actually not that bad. To be honest, it is not that bad. It's certainly worse than Heal Tempest, but I actually think it's actually better than Scrapper and Specter. I think that simple change has actually catapulted this build into something that actually exists. To be honest, but it's B tier, but has a lot of potential. Has a lot of potential to consistently be improved. I think one of the issues right now is that the way the build operates, you actually use staff, and that is inherently limiting in kind of like the type of access, the type of utility that you can bring to the table, which is not really where you want to be. So freeing up the weapons there, taking it away from that, I think would really help. But yeah, B tier for now. Actually, pretty exciting build on the healer front, in my opinion. Let's see. I think we're kind of left with the quite questionable builds now. I believe so. So, heal... am I even putting heal Willbender? Heal Willbender is not a thing. I'm sorry, it's not. I mean, it's probably C tier, actually. Because it's probably C tier. Yeah. It's on the same level as Heal Catalyst, I think. Harbinger Heal is actually worse than both of those. Actually, we're adding a new tier. Okay. Wait for patch. This is like wait for a patch tier, or no, this is like you're trying too hard tier, and in that is going to be Bladesworn, Chronomancer, and Harbinger. No, okay, we'll read Grasping at Straws. Grasping at Straws tier is what's going to be going on here. Yeah, none of that is a real thing, okay? Not yet. There's like a shape of build. There's like the shadow of a build. Like, there's a shadow of a build that exists. This one, when Warrior gets Staff, actually has some potential. Heal Alacrity Bladesworn with Staff could be really exciting, actually. Heal Chrono, it's just waiting for a patch. ArenaNet started to make this build a thing. Then they kind of went back on it by changing the way the mantras worked again, because you would use the mantras to heal, but then they kind of reverted them, so that kind of unmade this build, especially with the way that wells were working too. So that kind of unmade the build. So they need to just do it again. They started it, but they didn't finish that project. Heal Harbinger. I mean, do I even have to address this? Like, this is not a build, okay? It's a meme build, right? Like, the fact that this even works is a testament to how easy a lot of content in this game is, especially with all the power creep, right? No, Heal Harbinger, guys. It doesn't exist, right? And neither does Heal Vindicator. People ask me about Heal Vindicator. Listen, go play World vs. World. It's really good in World vs. World. In PvE, it's not good, right? You know, I'm sorry. It does nothing, right? Like, that's it. Yeah. Oh, Heal Renegade. You know what's actually weird? I think Heal Renegade is actually really bad. I think it's actually Grasping at Straws tier. It's probably the best Grasping at Straws tier, but I think both of those are better. Like, this is not a good build. Like, anyone who says Heal Renegade is good is coping. Okay, maybe it's C tier. It's not Grasping at Straws tier. Yeah, it's at the bottom of C tier though. Oh, is it better? It might be better than Heal Willbender. Heal Willbender is pretty. Yeah, it's better than Heal Willbender. Yeah, ooh, yeah. It's better than, yeah, okay. I do not like this build at all. I do not think this build is very good. I don't think it heals very well. I don't think it boons very well. No. It's not good, you know? This is, the C is for copium when it comes to Renegade. It used to be very solid, actually. But to be honest, this is actually a build that got power crept. To be honest, you know, it got power crept. It used to be good back in the day, but it didn't get buffed and everything else did. Everything else became more overpowered, and that basically left this build in the dust. All other builds got way more boon application, way more utility, way more value, way more healing, way more flexibility. Heal Renegade didn't. So this is a relic of the past, to be honest. It's just not a thing. Oh yeah, and they nerfed the elite skill. Ouch, unlucky. That was definitely a harsh blow to our Renegade fans, I'm afraid. You hate to see that. But, yeah, used to be good. But anyway, that is going to be it for the defensive supports, I guess. It looks mostly the same. I think the really big change is actually the Untamed build that's kind of cropped up now. And I think myself slightly underrating Heal Scourge last time, to be honest. I think that the build was... I started playing it a lot more in tryhard groups, and that made it really obvious how strong it was. When I was playing it in pugs, it was like, I can't really tell if it's doing anything or not. You know, it still revives pretty well, by the way. But when I played it as a solo healer in some speedrun, I was like, oh shit, this build's actually broken, right? It's insane, right? Yeah. This is a crazy build. Play the build. You can still, again, people think that like the old res Scourge is gone. Honestly, not really. It's just a bit harder to pull off, but you can do it with some intelligent play. Anyway, we're done. Feels good. With Alacrity, by the way. You do not play Heal Scourge without Alacrity. If you play Heal Scourge without Alacrity, kind of trolling, to be honest, because then you're just depriving your team of cooldown reduction, all right? And that just feels bad. It's not a good time. But yeah, that's it. Defensive supports, job done. Look at that beauty. It's almost like a tower, right? It's almost like a chair, actually. Like, we've got a big square here at the bottom, like 3x3x3. You love to see it. Fantastic stuff. Incredible tier list. Boom. Healers completed. Nice.